The team leave the Lake Leake investigation site and head east to the seaside town of Swansea.
We're here at the lovely seaside town of Swansea, and the reason we're here is because this fascinating story that happened in the early 19th century. There's a guy called William Cotton, and he was a trapper, and so what he did was he was checking his traps one day and there was a thylacine in his trap. So snarling around, he got a long stick, about 5-foot stick, with a noose on it, and he ended up noosing the thylacine. So then he thought, oh, I might have a pet thylacine here. So he's got it alive. It's struggling around all over the place, but after a while, as he's walking, the thylacine's walking beside him like a dog. So he ends up walking all the way into town of Swansea with this thylacine on a lead. As he goes past, farmers are amazed, they're shocked, they're looking, oh my goodness, look at that. So he's there thinking, oh, I've got myself a pet thylacine now. Unfortunately, like a lot of thylacine stories back in the day, it comes to a very sad ending. He got there and he put his thylacine in the horse stables at night. The next morning he goes to check his thylacine. The thylacine had jumped over one of the gates and its feet couldn't touch the ground, and it actually hung itself overnight. Bit of a bummer, bit of a sad story. However, it's interesting when you get human and thylacine interactions, the thylacines usually end up being fairly tame. Well, we'll move on to the next destination.
The short stop at Swansea complete, the guys get back into the car and head towards Freycinet National Park.
So we're near Freycinet National Park. Should we go in?
Well,
there's an interesting sighting here very recently, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a 2004 sighting.
So what are the details of this?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Bill, because you know how we like getting into the details. Unfortunately, with this sighting, it's entirely redacted.
The whole thing's redacted?
Yes. All you know is that it's a sighting, and they've put a white piece of paper over it, they've scanned it, and then they've sent it off to us. So, obviously, a lot to hide.
So all we know is the sighting happened here, 2014, and nothing else.
Yeah, and so here's the thing is that when they decide to redact things, when in RTIs, they state a few reasons, and one of the ones that they've used for this particular sighting is Section 42 of the Act, which basically says that the release of that information could endanger the safety and well-being of an endangered species, or the department's measures to protect said species. So it leads one to think, well, if a thylacine is extinct, what is it exactly that you're protecting?
Yeah, it's yeah.
So, you know, it'd be great to go in there, but I think, you know, without any more information, it would just be a needle in the haystack.
Yeah, okay. This would be the best government conspiracy yet.
Yeah, well, we keep saying we don't believe in conspiracy theories, but, you know, there are those tantalising threads, and you could take it as a way of covering something up. But again, I always lean to the fact that, you know, could a government organise a chook raffle in a country pub?
Well, with some difficulty, that, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so how are they going to orchestrate or mastermind a cover-up like that? Okay. All right, let's go.
Let's go
back on the road.
Back on the road.
Without specific location details, the team leave the turn off to Freycinet National Park and head north to St Helens.
We're here in St Helens, and just sort of looking at an amusing little story here where a former warden, an elderly retired St Helens farmer, believes he could capture a Tasmanian tiger. This dates back to April in 1954. Now, he requested from the government at the time permission to catch a couple of tigers to put in sideshows for the mainland and for here, and he was refused a permit. The idea he had was he was going to dig a 14-foot trench as a trap to catch these guys, so he was pretty confident that he could get them. It talks about he's seen, there's the sightings in the area, that he's seen footprints, so he was very confident of catching them. But he was refused permission, even though the animal was officially extinct at the time. That's just an interesting little story as we're passing through. I think it's time to get on to the next town.
The team now heads back inland to another infamous sighting, to Pyengana. Did a National Parks ranger see a thylacine in Pyengana in 1995?
So here we are, Pyengana, and it's roughly an area where a summer ranger and bird watcher, as a hobby, sighted what he believed was a thylacine through his binoculars. Now, it was summertime, it was January 1995.
Right, okay.
So some interesting things about this. It sparked an investigation. The fact that he was a summer ranger, I think, although some people sort of say, oh, summer ranger, so what?
Yeah.
I think the fact that he's bird watching shows he has some sort of knowledge about wildlife.
Yeah. As soon as you say bird watcher observing thylacine, I instantly go to Hans Narding, and that's why Hans was out doing a snipe observation, and when he saw his thylacine. So what are the details of this particular site? What did he allegedly see?
He said that he saw through dust, which would at summertime would be about the right time to see a large marsupial.
A crepuscular animal, active at dawn and dusk. Yep.
Yes, and he said it was like a German shepherd, but he said the tail was like a kangaroo, which would describe either a thylacine or a German shepherd with mange. He said it was a dusty, sandy, sort of horrible colour with like a bit of a bath or something like that, which would be the right colour. Don't know that he really mentioned stripes.
Right.
Whether it was too far away, it's hard to tell.
How sure was he?
Well, he says he was 150% sure.
Okay. Right, and as soon as people start coming with those levels of assurance, I start getting a little bit concerned, because I think, if I saw a thylacine, I'd be still saying, even if I was 100% sure, I'd still be saying, well, I need to allow for the possibility that I could be wrong, in case of mistaken identity. But was there a duration that he mentioned in the sighting?
So this sighting was over 2 minutes. And I guess I'm with you. I'd probably pinch myself. Did I really see that? You know, what did I have to eat for breakfast? You know.
Yeah.
The upshot of this was that the location's kept secret, and it's one of those things where the government blatantly says, you know, Nick Mooney says, we're going to keep the location secret. We're going to keep all the details of this was suppressed and kept secret.
Bill, we've got all of the government files from that period. We could find out exactly where that location is, put it into the GPS, and potentially go there.
What a geek. Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's go and have a look. So one of the interesting things about these government files, Bill, is that you have to go through a fairly robust process of asking very specific questions, and they'll only send you the material based on those questions that you asked. Now, interestingly, when you said January 1995, a little flag went off in my brain about these files. Now, when I originally got them, 378 pages, lots of material to go through, and I noticed after a while that there were no reports, file notes from 1995. Now, I didn't necessarily have this particular sighting in mind when I was thinking of it, but I just thought there was nothing, and that was strange.
Right.
So I then wrote back to the Parks and Wildlife people and said there is no information from 1995. Their first response was that they've been advised that there were a number of years when there was zero thylacine related activity, and that explained the absence of information in that report. I wrote back to them and said could they have another look. Again, I wasn't thinking about this particular sighting. They then wrote back to me and sent me another 25 pages that they had subsequently found when they re-examined their files again. Right. So I just think it's not saying that it's a conspiracy that they were trying to hide things from me, but it's just very interesting that it took essentially 3 to 4 goes to get files from that particular year.
Okay, so cool. So does that mean we've got something more interesting?
Well, there's a lot of information that we have to go through here, but I think we'll start looking and see what we can get.
Okay, cool. So what did you find?
Well, it was really interesting, Bill. Despite the fact that I wrote back to the government to ask them why was there an absence of information from the period 1993 to 1999, expecting that we would get this 1995 sighting and all of its details, there was nothing in that additional 25 pages that they sent me. In fact, most of the sighting information they sent me was from 2000 onwards and some stuff back from 1980. So despite there being a number of articles that were in the newspaper at the time about a big investigation, the files were completely silent about it. So
government conspiracy.
And look, I know that you're aware of there's a pub in the paddock that is also somehow wrapped up in this particular sighting and conspiracy. So what can you tell me about that?
Oh, look, having a look at the pub in the paddock, it was interesting. I was chatting to the lady behind the counter, and I mentioned about the ranger who sighted thylacine. She said, oh yeah, that brought a lot of people into the pub. And so, I mean, I've heard the rumour that the conspiracy is that Pub and Paddock paid him to say it. I don't think it's true. Just looking at Pub and Paddock, there's nothing to do with thylacine in any of the pub. There's no pictures, there's no newspaper articles clipped up about it. And it's a place where tourists drop in, and there's not even thylacine toys or anything sold, whereas a lot of the other places there is. It seemed really odd that there wasn't. So to me, it's something that, well, if you run a business, you'd probably keep that stuff going, so the very fact they don't makes me tend to think, well, they didn't in the first place.
Yeah, look, you know that I'm not a big conspiracy theorist or supporter of these things, but what I think I'm going to do as a result of what we've sort of puzzled out today, and I guess the information was always not there to start with, and we've only just really stumbled on it now, is I'm going to write back to the government, and I'm going to include copies of the newspaper articles and say, surely there must be files that are associated with this. Please provide them, because unlike the vast majority of other sightings, we don't have the precise location that it happened, so we can't go to site.
And in the newspaper article, I mean, Nick Moon is basically saying, well, we'll suppress the information. So yeah, well,
maybe they've been doing it really effective, even though, you know, it's over 20 years since this sighting happened.
Okay, well, time for you to get interrogate them and get
time to
the
get
goods
hot
on
and
'em.
heavy, so to speak.
Yeah, let's
All
get
right.
medieval on.
Medieval, use your sword.
Yeah.
Let's get on to it.